5:35. First on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of April the 3rd. Give everybody a second to look at those if they haven't.
Move to approve.
A second.
Motion by George, a second by Nicole. Any discussion? How do you vote, Nicole?
Yes.
I abstain.
Yes? Don, how do you? Say again?
Yes.
Unanimous?
Yes.
With one abstention. We are at approval of minutes, and it's all yours, my friend.
In Russian.
No way I was leaving that at home. Did we just approve minutes?
We
or-
just approved the minutes
All
of
right.
April the 3rd.
Fantastic.
Unanimous with one
That's not the
abstention.
packet. Do you need a packet?
Alrighty. Minutes have been approved. Next on the agenda is public comment. There's no public comment. Move on. Next we have a representative from Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe. And I don't see one, so if representative comes in later on in the meeting, we'll go back to that agenda item. Next is the report of the superintendent. Mr. Wolf.
Okay, and this is one of the weeks that there will be an article appearing in the Mashpee Enterprise on Friday, which highlights a lot of what I might hit on tonight. So I just want to point that out for and everyone has a copy of that. There are 413 students who are currently at the Coombs School, and some acknowledgments. Nurse Stacy Skankel provided CPR training to the staff. Jamie Needry is an adjustment counselor. She supported Autism Awareness Day by visiting classrooms and reading to students. Thank you to Denise Fronius, the CFCE coordinator, for organizing the Dance Around the World with Donna event for incoming kindergarten students. It's one of the transition events. Thank you to Karen Camp and the guidance staff for sponsoring the Paraprofessional Appreciation Brunch. And thank you to Katie Martin for hosting the annual Arcade Day, as well as being the person responsible or spearheading the team that does the STEM night. And then the Lions Club came in and assisted Nurse Stacy in the screening of all the preschoolers for their eyes and ears, and they have a really special device that works really well that we don't have, so that's been a good partnership. And STEM night was very well attended. It was one of the few lovely evenings in April that allowed them to use the outside courtyard, but lots of community partners in that, very well attended. Always a highlight is the arcade section set up in the gymnasium where all the students have already created the games, and they're just very engaging for students without any kind of technology required. So, and anything else you'd like to add?
No, just like we have the partnership with the high school students coming down and
Right.
Spotlighting the projects that we're doing with coding and robotics with the students all year, and then we showcase that. That was really nice.
Was. Just to acknowledge that Principal LaBelle is a new grandfather, so,
Congratulations.
yeah, it's his first-time grandfather, I should say.
Great.
Yes.
Everybody healthy?
Very healthy, very beautiful.
All right, we have the Quashnet School report from Principal O'Brien, 500 students enrolled at her school, recognizing fourth grade poets who were honored in the Veterans for Peace, Voices for Peace poetry contest. Madeline Dameron earned first honors, Fernanda Lima second honors, and Oliver Jocelyn earned an honorable mention. That is sort of a project that Mrs. McKay embraces every year and always has students who are recognized. The floor hockey game between 6th grade and the staff took place on April 12th. We're very grateful to Deputy Bob Roth from the Barnstable County Sheriff's Office who officiated the game. Unfortunately for the 6th graders, the staff did win again this year. And we've talked about a few of the male staff members just sort of get tunnel vision and go back to being 10, and it's all about the win. So they are fast and very skilled at floor hockey. One
It's
of-
gender specific though, some are.
Yeah, that's true. Some of the women do it too. I shouldn't say that. I just observed one really strong player who just
Passionate.
never took it back a notch. But he's good. He does that in basketball too. Yes, you do. April 11th, this school had their Night to Shine event, which was a little bit a different take on their talent show. It was really a wonderful environment in the cafeteria. So it was a combination of music performance and poetry readings, and it was a merged or collaborative effort between our two music teachers and our Title I teacher, Miss Brady Cohane. Mrs. Hill and Miss Boyd are the music teachers. And it was really, really nice to see kids who can get up and do that, because it takes a certain level of courage and self-confidence, and they were all really, really great. So I think it'll continue to grow. And also acknowledging, and I think we have an update from this, but Mr. Loico's class participated in a national IXL Spring Showdown, which is an online math skills practice program, and it would record how many problems each student answered. And when it was all said and done, his class came in 5th in the nation. For
First
the
in Massachusetts.
first in Massachusetts, 5th in the nation for the amount of problems his kids solved. So,
So we beat out everybody in the state, huh?
is it by grade level?
It, no, it is, well, it's like, I believe 3 to 5, and then there's a middle school competition and a high school
Okay.
competition. So
Oh,
it's from
so-
3 to 5.
Nice, nice.
Carmen did her share of those 607 hours, I can assure you. She was very motivated.
And then we also want to acknowledge and thank the DPW who rebuilt our garden here, sort of Garden 2.0. It's far superior to the original version, so we're very grateful for them. It was a casualty of the reconstruction and project. So, any questions for Principal O'Brien? And Principal Balistracci apologized for not being here, but there is a student event that he is involved with tonight, and he had permission to attend that instead. There are 721 students currently at the Mashpee Middle High School. They had, so some of the acknowledgments he has is congratulating MMHS Career and Technical Education Center teachers Anthony Cupie, Amanda Howe, Mike Looney, and Sal Nocella. They were recognized as one of only 37 programs through the Program Excellence Award. And I think it has another word with it, but. Annika Lakatos and Stella Stay are currently engaged in a service project to create these welcome boxes for foster families who take in an infant so that they have all of the supplies they need. Jessica Dillis was awarded 2nd place in the mixed media category in the Congressional Art Competition for the 9th Congressional District. Her picture, I believe, is in the newsletter that you have in front of you as well. Senior Exhibition Night was very successful, and also the Credit for Life Fair, which was held in April, was a great hands-on learning experience to try to help our students gain a little bit of financial literacy. And then the TEDx event that took place on April 26th was really, really interesting for those of us who were able to take in any of the speakers. First of all, the fact that they can do that, and they were so well-versed and well-spoken, and with topics that really made you think about education and what we want to do. So that was a wonderful project. Celeste Reynolds was sort of the coordinator with Aiden Gaddu, Caroline Henley, Carter Teed, and Mohammed Haider Zahir. They worked on that as their senior project. So I would love to see that as an annual event.
So would I. I attended the morning, and the question I had was, I mean, I understand why, you don't want to disrupt kids from classes, but when I first heard about the event and saw it was going to be during the school day, I assumed that at least juniors and seniors, or like the upperclassmen, would be able to see the presentations. So did they see them at another time, or how?
I don't think so, but I think where maybe this was the first time through, maybe that wasn't something that they thought about in terms of, I don't know how that worked.
Yeah, so maybe, because I think it would be great to have an annual event. Maybe it's always a senior project every year, maybe it's not, but I thought it was a great opportunity to bring, if it if it couldn't be, maybe doing it on a weekend day instead, like a Saturday morning, so that more members of the community could turn out too, might be helpful. Because I felt like it was at a time where you would have had to miss work to do it,
Right.
you know. But there was still about maybe 100 people there. I think. But mostly there were retirees, there were people that came from kind of all over the place, like down Cape and off Cape, and there were some folks sitting around me from Tabor Academy and a few other places. So it was really a cool, it was really a pretty cool event. But the lessons about, you know, sort of taking care of, what was the theme? It was like how to.
Well, the geography piece was woven through it all.
It's an excellent example of what we're always talking about with the 21st century graduate doing all these different skills, but focused on different activities. So the theme was geography, but there was like an economist there was a social science, you know, was all kinds of different presentations around the topic of geography, but it was essentially about, it's interesting in our community, having a connected community is our theme. It really was about building connections across geographies, whether they're down the street or across the world or, you know, and I thought the only omission was having someone from Mashpee present.
That's another good point.
You know, if we were hosting, we should have had.
I think it was last year, it was part of when Celia was here, there was I think it was Celia, one of the years, those kids are currently sophomores in college, they did a Saturday TEDx, it was with Amanda Howe, and they got up to talk about their passion, and so that was, you know, sort of dipping a finger into that, but we should
okay.
look at that, yeah.
But anyway, it was very cool.
That wasn't a weekend, too.
That one was a weekend,
Yeah.
right. It was really, whether it was yeah, they were really good. Any other questions on Principal Balistracci's report? So I don't know where everyone is today, but I think actually this might be still the same day that Mrs. Curley, Dr. Curley was attending a legal conference for 2 days that's out of state, so it might have been, I thought she was due back today. At the beginning of her report, she was trying to address, I believe, a question that Dawn had raised at the last meeting. Dawn, do you have the packet that you're looking at?
I do.
Did you see Dr. Curley's response or text at the top of her report?
I
That was.
I do, but I don't see that it answered the question of how we as a district and as a school committee evaluate our overall success.
I thought that she did, I thought she talked about on an individual basis, if you're going to look at student performance who have IEPs, if their goals are not being met, you're going to reassess not only all of the resources put into that program to see whether it needs to change or anything. That it is evaluated. Each program is evaluated based on students meeting their goals.
Right. I agree with that. Each individual one is. So how do we step back and look at it from a big picture to say we are meeting the overall needs of the students in aggregate?
By pulling together all of the individual measurements of their outcomes. We do look at that because if you looked at, there was a group of 5 students being serviced in a particular program and none of those students were progressing the way they should or meeting their goals, there's going to be a response to that. But if students are meeting the goals that the team developed for that student, then you would move towards considering that a successful use of the resources.
So is the bar 51% or a majority, or what do we term a success or overall success?
Well, I think generally on an IEP goal, it's an 80% is the percentage used, so that would probably be what I would consider when you look across the board and accumulate all the students' performances together, reaching their
So,
goals.
so on a macro perspective, 80% of the students are meeting or achieving the objectives on their IEPs. Is that the measurement
That
we
would-
should be using?
Right. That is the measurement we should be using.
I think what Don's saying is that's not what we see. We just are given the number of kids on IEPs. So as a school committee, if we want to evaluate progress, then we need to know if that aggregate number is moving or not. I think, is that where you're going, Don?
Did you hear that, Don?
Yeah, yeah. I think I heard you. Yeah, we don't have any idea, or I don't at least have any idea. The committee does. How needs of the students
You're cutting out a little bit there, Don.
aggregate. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just were cutting out a little bit just in that last sentence.
How you are meeting the needs of the students or not meeting the needs of the students. You know, I know we do lots of general things. We get feedback on things, but I don't know that we get a lot of feedback specifically in regard to our spread program. And I know, you know, we have CPAC meetings, but those are very sparsely attended, almost as much as the school committee meetings are attended. So I'm not, you know, I'm not sure what form of feedback we're supposed to have or get in order to know whether we're doing a good job or not.
Well, I think it was brought up at a previous meeting too. When we have our comprehensive program review, that is a piece that they look at. They randomly select and they monitor that. I think it gets a little bit potentially dicey because special education, the privacy element. So I mean, every student is looked at within each school by each team chair. I mean, we have information like that, but I don't know that we're looking at it. I don't know that it would.
Well, and that's why I asked, how should we look at it as a committee?
Well, overall, one of the things you should look at is you want to see that our special education numbers are declining because we are more successful in meeting needs through the tiered instruction.
So the biggest decline I see from April of last year to this year is at the middle and high school level.
Right.
Is that because kids are grading out, or because I don't see? Casey Coons, I see a big decline.
So part of
I'm just asking how we should be evaluating it as a committee. If we're supposed to look at the numbers reported as the number of active IEPs, or should we be looking at the quality of the services that we're providing and the successes in kids being able to achieve their individual goals?
So, yeah, Chris is going to.
So Don, I think we got two things here, right? So we obviously should be looking at this from a committee standpoint, more broad-based, without getting into too much detail for privacy reasons. I think a couple of things that were hit on today with either the 80%. Obviously, I don't want to speak for you, but I think you know, you're hitting it with Making sure that IEPs are declining for the right reason, that they're getting the right services, and, maybe dropping off IEPs for the right reasons rather than grading out or whatever. But I just don't know that without Dr. Curley here and without a more robust conversation that we're going to get those answers right here on the spot. But I do see where you're coming from, and I agree with most of it, and I think Patty's onto a lot of stuff. I just think, in my opinion, that we probably have to have a more robust conversation on this at a later time.
And I would just ask that follow-up be scheduled at a subsequent committee meeting when Dr. Curley is available to attend.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Oh.
It's actually a perfect segue. Excuse me. And I was going to bring it up at the next financial working group, but we're unable to get a date for that anytime in the next 25 years. So, yeah, I was interested. It's kind of interesting that Don said this, and maybe he's what kind of sparked the thought in my head. But I kind of love to tweak this narrative anyway, especially on the financial side, because we use a lot of our increase in social emotional needs in the school as kind of a crux point for, justifying some of the ways that we have to spend our money.
Mm-hmm.
And as well, we did a pretty good job of being the front runner in the area anyway for, free pre-care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, free preschool. It would be very interesting if we included that kind of data to compare the two and see, are we actually seeing, can we quantify that we actually have improvement from not having pre-K and being able to identify the needs early at whenever that started. Well, that was before my time. It was a couple years before my
So
time.
the
right?
current third graders had just finished MCAS. They were the first group to
Awesome.
have the opportunity for the pre-K.
So, yeah, perfect. So, because I agree that this is it's a lot of words and a great chart that maybe needs to be talked about, and I agree with you talk about it. Because, like, do we use 504s?
Mm-hmm.
And so, should we be discussing those as well, or how many we have, or if they're declining or something like that? That's more of a social emotional side, right, or behavior?
No, but when we had a 504 training a year ago, anyone with health, we used to have health plans.
Oh, so it's not going to help then.
They had to be converted to 504s, so
Okay.
that might not be.
So I don't want to
just
put any numbers
read.
on it, but, it'd be nice to be able to, justify our, we talk about all the time the social emotional growth, but all we have to look at is a decrease in IEP, so that two stories don't match. So I wonder if we need to.
Well, we're putting resources in place at a tier 1 level and then tier 2 and tier 3 to address some of the social emotional needs of students, which when that's working, and I believe it is avoiding going down the road where the student may end up on an IEP because they're gaining some skills and strategies and having the right supports. But, this is one data point when we want to start to
Exactly.
really explore. At the high school level, we track students with disabilities in terms of performance on MCAS, which is not my favorite thing to do, but that's another data point. So in that, the tiered instruction at the high school has put into place these extra sort of, I'm not sure, I forget what he calls them, but they're skill-based opportunities for kids who might be lagging, and so that's keeping them from, falling into an IEP world sometimes too.
We can delve much deeper at
Oh, yeah.
working
Yeah.
group. I'll just cross it off my list.
On a related, I think the last time we talked about this, I felt like, can we see the history of the totals?
That you did ask
Yeah.
for that, yeah.
Thanks.
Yes. Sorry about that. We have the report of the athletic director. I think some of the pieces are, sometimes when he puts it in, then time has gone by. But just to acknowledge that Devon Ford is going to Framingham State. Ashley Kelleher won all 4 of her events that she entered in her first meet. She's really quite a good runner. Girls tennis was doing well at this time. The baseball team made it back safely from Florida. Okay, that's it for his report. Under personnel changes, we have 3 departures who are all paraprofessionals, and then currently have some of those open positions. We are starting to do some of the hiring for teachers who are retiring, but I think those will all get posted sort of at the same time in the summer because they're not really in effect yet.
How many do we anticipate retiring?
Oh, how many are retiring? Did you have that? Quite a few. I don't have it with me. I'm going to say 9.
Nine, approximately 9.
About 9, yeah.
Okay.
Which they are all being invited to the June meeting at the Tribal Government Center to receive sort of the proclamation that we get from the State House and a way to sort of celebrate. So we have a total of 1,634 students for the month of, well, basically April, as of the end of April. Under correspondence in your packet, you have a thank you letter in regards to the support that was provided during the government shutdown. This is coming from the Coast Guard, and that was very nice. You have a recognition. This was something that involves Susie Brooks, and we use this particular program, Catch On, to monitor the use of all the different programs that we purchase. So if, you know, sometimes people want something and we may purchase it, but then when you monitor the usage after a certain amount of time, they're not using it. So this is really good data for deciding what we're keeping and what we're not keeping. So there's a lot of good information in here and kind of puts Mashpee in a publication. Susie. And I think I already touched on MMHS students and Quashnet School students. I will say, it's not in the packet, but Amanda Howe was recently acknowledged as the STEM Teacher of the Year through Raytheon. Last year she was a runner-up, which brought $1,000 into her programs. This recognition is $5,000 that will come into her program. So she's really out there, and many other things are in the works. So she's an amazing educator. And portrait of a graduate update. So we had our 4th and final group meeting. We have a draft of the portrait, and we will be sort of, the next steps are to share through school councils with our staff members, with parents and school committee as well, to get input as it moves through sort of a finalization process. We have one of our members, which is senior Tiana Peters-Williams, thank you. She is a very talented artist, so part of it is sort of to create a graphic that will represent and try to capture what we want for that. So she's going to be working on that.
When I came in and I saw that, I was like, you didn't say operational manager.
No.
This one, the screen.
One of our
Similar.
one of our competencies, we've currently named Resilient Me, but we're trying to come up with sort of a different, it's the one all about sort of wellness for an individual. It's financial wellness. It's making good decisions so you're healthy. We're just not sure of the term. So once you get a rough draft, you can start pondering anything you'd like to change to capture. So it's been a really good process, though. I'm sad that it's kind of done. And the last one, which was, we go from 9 to 2, but we went from till 3:15 because everybody really wanted to just. The best part of it is really the rich discussion that happens from a lot of different perspectives. So it's been good. I've enjoyed it. Yeah. Okay, that is it for that section of the agenda.
All right, thank you very much. Next we have signed unfinished business, and the first item on that is the FY21 school calendar that is in your packet. We will need a vote on it. Things to note would be obviously the beginning of school is September 2nd, and the last day of school is June 18th. Obviously pending snow dates. Obviously pending
Snow dates, it can go all the way to the 25th.
But we do have a motion to approve by George. Do we have a second? Oh, second by Don. I forgot he was there. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Nicole, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes? Don?
Yes.
All right, thank you. It's unanimous. Next, we have working group updates, and I will leave that to the working groups, and this is the book.
So the financial working group, have you met since the last time?
I don't think we did, actually.
No, I have a list of things that we're going to talk about at the next time we meet. It's hard to get, it seems harder to get scheduled in the spring.
I know one of our big pushes was going to be to continue with the four-year plan, and adjust all the
Four-year
assumptions
plan.
and update the last two budgets. And
For your plan, we were going to talk about meal reimbursement.
Yep.
I can try to picture that list on my desk. I didn't bring it to me.
But we have things to talk about.
Yep.
Next year's budget.
Yes, actually, Paul is ready to present that to the financial working group, so,
Awesome.
all right.
All right, thank you.
All right, so the efficiency and effectiveness group, you have the handbook that has taken into account some of Dawn's comments from the past and Nicole's. And Jeff, your last list, we went over them in our last meeting. And I don't know if you want to go through them. So you're looking at a copy that doesn't have anything highlighted or anything. So I could try to summarize whatever we fixed from the last time you saw this.
Well, I still have the same issues that I emailed you about.
I just don't understand why it's so long.
That was one of my issues, and I'll wait until the.
Well, go ahead.
discuss.
No, so
My biggest concern here is that we're duplicating policy, and the policy that we're putting in this handbook doesn't match the policy of the district.
which one? Because we went and checked all of
For
them.
example, the chair responsibilities don't match the policy's chair's responsibilities. I believe do we talk about reimbursement in here? I just want to make sure.
I don't believe so.
And again, I'm doing things from memory, so I apologize. I didn't mark up this copy. I just, me personally, I don't think there's any reason at all to have policy replicated in the member handbook, when the very first thing a new member should do is read the district policy,
Which district policy?
our district policy.
You mean just the school committee one?
Yeah.
Just a single piece of paper?
No, our 65-page school policy.
The manual.
Our policy, our district
manual is
policy.
like 700 pages.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Well,
not
I understand
60.
it. I'm not discounting you. I just don't understand you can be a member of the school committee and not read the policy.
I'll bet you, I dare say, Chris and I are the only people who have read every policy in the school district because we just redid the policy manual. But
I'm not saying verbatim. I'm just saying why repeat it in here and then have to update a new policy manual? I'm sorry, a new member manual and a policy.
I'm with you,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, so maybe what we have in here are references to the policy manual that are germane to a school committee member's responsibilities or something. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I have no
Saying.
problem with that.
Well,
It's just, we just,
if I could just ask one of the members that was on this group and having that discussion, because I remember getting all your notes. One of the reasons is, so if you're a new member and you get handed that policy book or told to go look at it online, I'd like to think that everybody's going to read it. You might read it over time. You might read it over 6 months. Part of the reason with this is it is a little lengthy, but it's short enough where you could say, here, read this over the weekend or over a few days, and at least get a very good overview as to what your expectations are, how the school committee operates, where to find some of the policies. And it would be a much quicker and easier read than reading through the whole policy, and easier to understand, because you know how policies are. And I do agree, and we had this discussion about listing certain policies in there, actually referencing them specifically, that way we would have to go back and change it, like you had noted. If there was a change to the policy, we'd have to go back and change this as well. So we tried to limit that as much as possible.
Yeah, we
But I
took
will-
out reference.
I will point out that, like, things like you had noticed with the chair responsibilities, unless I'm mistaken, it doesn't actually reference the policy. It's more of a bullet point outline of what the responsibilities are.
right,
of
that's
each
my
member.
exact, there is already a policy that talks about the chair responsibilities, so why would we have something different in the membership handbook?
I don't think it's different. I think it's more scaled and more
It's different.
condensed.
It's not the same as the policy. So does it make a difference if you paraphrase it? It's different.
Well, I mean, if there's things that are different in it, like if there's something that is
contrary to Robert's Rules of Orders under which the committee normally operates, is not in our policy, that entire sentence. So
Yep.
I don't have any issue. This is a spectacular manual. You guys did a great job and spent a lot of time in this. I don't want to make this me trying to put my spin on something. Doesn't need anything to be changed. In the future, the more documents that we manufacture, the more documents we have to update.
Yep.
And the more documents we have to concern ourselves when they deviate from policy. I understand that nobody's going to read the policy manual from front to back, even though honestly they should. There's a lot of really good information in there. So you just got to be careful. I mean, and did you take the references out? Because I actually said we should have references in there so people know what the policy is, and you can easily adjudicate back and forth between the two to update them. But
We did take them out just because
Okay.
We took certain references out that weren't duplicates of an actual policy. So if we took a specific paragraph out of a policy, then we referenced it, kind of
Oh, I
like a
see what you're
footnote
saying.
kind of thing. But as far as this type of stuff, because like you said, we did add a little bit of verbiage, we didn't really want to say, or have any reference to the exact policy, because then it could be mistaken for what you said. Well, this is the policy and it doesn't match. So with us kind of rewording a few things and making it easier to read or easier to understand, we didn't want people to think that, oh, well, I read this handbook, this is the policy.
But we're
So,
voting on this, right?
oh, we'll absolutely vote on this, yeah.
Then it's policy.
We don't only vote on policy.
No, but this is
the handbook.
information in the handbook. that we
guidelines.
Yeah,
vote
we're
on.
gonna vote on.
We've already had this, I'm not going to bring up this argument again. It's just like a student
Bring
handbook.
up-
A student handbook voted by the committee is policy. So, if the school committee votes on a rule, it's policy of the district. So we put it in writing and we vote on it, it's policy. I mean, it's by definition what policy is. So you just got to be careful. We have to be careful with what we're doing. Now we're going to have conflicting policy. One manual says that, and I'm just picking this out because it's very different than the policy, is that we have one manual that says the chair's responsibility is this, and another policy that says the chair's responsibility is this. Is that providing a new member with the appropriate information we want to provide? So. And the other thing is, I mean, do we need this much information in the manual? Probably, I don't know. I didn't have a manual, and you were kind of treading water. I feel like I'm talking in circles here. I'm just going to take a breath and shut up.
That's good. No, we need this kind of feedback because,
Yeah.
like, if there is something specific, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there
No,
in these
it is.
meetings.
I get you.
Just like you understand in these meetings, you sit in there and you're reading a lot of words.
Yeah.
So if there is something specific that doesn't match or something that, hey, this shouldn't be in there, we should definitely know about it. Also, when I know, at least for myself going through this, I felt like it was a lot, but at the same time, I wanted to hit, when we were talking about the main points, like when I first got on the committee, I started thinking about, well, what did I wish I knew more about, but I didn't want to go look at 700 pages of policy. Something I can reference real quick. That's kind of the way I looked at it, not something that was going to be 3 pieces of paper and give you a really quick overview. We wanted something that was going to be more robust, but not 700 pages. And that's just my personal outlook on it
Yeah.
when we were going through this.
On a positive spin, I love the useful resources. I think that's great.
As we all know, this committee is, there's a lot more to it than what meets the eye, so.
But as I always say, for the last umpteen years, I defer to the Democratic, and this is the way that the committee would like to steer toward it. I will support it and assist in the future to update multiple manuals. I just have a philosophical issue with with voting on multiple things that don't say the same thing.
Well,
Chris, it's done. So if,
Is it?
yeah, it is. To Jeff's point, if there is a conflict between the handbook and the school policy, doesn't the school policy stand?
Yes. And that's what I'm getting at. So if there is a no kidding conflict, great, point it out. We need to get rid of it. But if there's if it's just wording is a little different because we're trying to kind of paraphrase it and just get information condensed, well, then that may be a different conversation. But I 100% agree. If we're going to contradict one or the other, we need to get rid of it.
But, so in essence, that really, if there is a conflict, the policy will rule. And I don't know that there is a conflict, but if there was, that would be the case. All right.
All right. All set, Don?
I'm okay. I think that's my understanding of it. I'm not sure if someone else would have that same understanding.
Yeah, I think Nicole has some feedback.
Well, I'm trying to think about, so first of all, this would have been extremely helpful 2 years ago when I sat down at this table for the first time, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that you kind of pick up as you go, that, isn't obvious, to maybe outsiders, particularly things like, you don't speak on behalf of the committee, some of those things that is in policy as well. But I do have picking up on Jeff's thread, I could just see it creating a real problem for us. I mean, right now we have a very cordial committee, everybody is,
Yep.
Gets along great and everything, but, I could just see, somebody coming in and taking a position and pulling something out of this handbook
Mhm.
as if it's gospel. And if it's not exact language that's in the policy manual, then I don't know, it just seems like it could create unnecessary work for all of us. So, I just think in your effort to be sort of thorough, which is commendable.
And
that
efficient.
And efficient.
And efficient.
I just feel like it makes more sense that if there's an official district policy, to just put the policy in there, and if there's not, then I thought those were the gaps we were filling in, was the stuff that didn't exist anywhere else. The stuff that actually isn't written down. Like, there is no policy about how we nominate officers and reorganize the committee. And yet, it's something you have to be prepared to do as soon as you walk in the door.
Yep.
And so that's really helpful to have in here. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not like hard over on it, but it's just, and it's certainly a fluid document that we can change whenever we want.
And we're not voting on it tonight, so.
Yeah, so, but maybe, maybe I could give it a second look, a little more time to just compare. I'm kind of now, I'm sort of curious, at Jeff's point, to look at the policies
As am I.
referenced and see, what kind of differences there are. And if they are just, if it is just a matter of a little jargon and stuff, then we ought to either fix the policy but they should just be the same.
We did pull most of the policies that are touched on to make sure there was no conflict, but it could be that maybe.
I'm not talking about
for-
conflict, it's just not the same.
Not the
Yeah,
same,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
because we have the stack of them that maybe I have it here, that we cross-reference to make sure, particularly like executive sessions, open meeting, all of those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we did.
but I mean, maybe we use what you did to update the policies. If this is easier to read and easier to understand, Chris and I can meet and we can update there's nothing that precludes us from modifying it really at any time.
Mhm.
But I think Jeff's point is right, it should be the same, or else we're just creating maybe a mess for ourselves.
Well, I just think some of the policies are written more, by lawyers, they have a different kind of wording to them, where this was supposed to be more of a.
Or like a Cliff Notes of the policy.
We can put it,
manual, you know.
we could also, there's nothing wrong with, I guess, putting like a scope statement in here too, that,
Yeah.
just what Don said and talked about, that what the real intention of this manual is for. It's
Yeah.
not
Oh, that's
policy,
true.
it's not,
Yeah.
it's informational for a brand-new committee member to get up to speed as soon as possible, and you can even make that anecdote that the expectation is your first meeting, you'll be reorganized the committee. Because, something like that to kind of put it forward.
Yeah.
And that it all, this is a fluid document that we can update as we
Mhm.
see new. It's more of norms and protocols, vice policy, and that the policy manual will always supersede, anything that's put in this,
I mean, would it be, that's a good idea, I like
Yep.
that idea.
Mhm.
And also maybe, is it a member handbook, or is it member norms? Is it something else?
I think it's a little bit of all, and I said that too. We really have kind of like three
Okay.
documents in here, right? We have like it's like almost like the important policy manual, right?
Like
These are the
need
important
to
policies
know,
you need
yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
it's a kind of a protocol and norm thing, which we also have norms listed in the policy. So, you know, it's probably important to know if they're the same, because if these are better, why don't we just update the ones in the
Exactly.
policy? And then and then the other one, the third one is the actual new member handbook, and, you know, I wonder if, because we can get a copy of that. What the heck is the name of that training?
Or the
Should
one
I
from
take-
Mass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's new mem, yeah.
I don't want to badmouth
Yeah, that's
Mask.
right.
It was an okay training.
But I think so your point is, I think what happened was, we started to provide a new member handbook, things you need to know. Because I think I was the one that was like, hey, you know, it'd be nice if we had something.
Yeah, no,
You know, just as the newest kid, but then as you start to put that together, it kind of doesn't hold without filling in these gaps about
Mhm.
responsibilities and budget process and, you know, timelines and norms, and so I think then it becomes like this mashup of a lot of things. So I think as a standalone, I think it works really well to orient a new member into just about anything you might need to know, which is great. So I like,
I like
maybe
that
if we
idea
could just
as
put
well.
some
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
disclaimer in the
Do a lot of
front
changes.
that protects
I like that.
us.
And the cool thing is too, then you can add anything we want to it, really, and explain. I guess you're right. You have to explain stuff and bulletize stuff and use real words as opposed to lawyer speak.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do remember when we were doing the policy manual, it was like, we would come to a policy and Jim Hardy would say, okay, here's the mask policy and here's the Mashpee policy. And this one's approved by our lawyers and yours
Yeah.
isn't. And we're like, okay, let's use the mask policy,
yeah.
you know, so, you know, it does become problematic if you want to sort of change a word here or there, then you might be altering, you know, the meaning that could come back and bite us later, so, okay.
Where did the contrary to Robert's Rule of Orders, the relinquishing of the gavel comment come from? And why is that important for the? I was just curious. That's
Where
yeah,
that came from.
it's good stuff.
Much earlier version.
Can we take that line out just for Jeff, please?
No, I'm cool. I mean,
I wonder if
don't
it might
relinquish,
be from
don't
the
ever give
example
up your
that we
gavel,
Might have
Chris.
been from the example.
Yeah. That
We
might have
had
come
looked
from
at
the
an example from
Mm.
Leicester.
Mm.
Might have been in that one.
Okay. That's because probably somebody asked that. You need to relinquish the gavel.
Chair will not be required.
No, I don't.
That is a weird sentence. That must be.
Now I'm gonna have to go home and read it. I almost did. I forgot though. I wrote it on my list to
Does
read
that
Robert's Rule of
give-
Orders.
Does that give Chris unnecessary power that we should?
There is reimbursement in here.
Right?
Yes, I knew it.
No.
Right here.
21?
Yeah, under
Page is it?
professional development. I knew there was a problem in here.
On what page is that?
And it's on it's on 21, it's 6 of the member handbook under professional development.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Also deviates from the policy.
If I'm not mistaken, it just doesn't fully explain all we're trying to still get answers on that, correct?
I actually don't.
Yeah,
know.
the same process established by other district employees to obtain reimbursement is not in the policy.
I'm just not sure that paragraph should be in there.
Does that need to be in the policy? That seems like.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I asked you a very similar question about that previously, because it's not mentioned anywhere else except this member handbook. So maybe it is important information to have, or we probably should update our policy on it, because there's stipulations to our reimbursement that I was unaware of. So we should probably have that in here. Or actually, more appropriate would be put it in the policy.
Well.
Otherwise, yeah, I mean, I want to tell you again for, who worked on it with you?
George. and
George, I mean, this is
obviously, Patty and Hope.
And everybody, what a great manual.
It was nothing.
It's really going to help. I mean, I get it. It wasn't too long ago that I was doing the same thing. I'm sure all of us felt the same way about what are we really doing.
Patty, on page 17 of the manual, 32 of the packet, this paragraph, it's just, then it says, "We will ensure that our decisions," it's weird, sometimes places in this document that the perspective changes. It's like
So it should be the committee.
is it the committee? Okay.
I'm thinking based on,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just double check for pronouns, because I think we've pointed out a couple of those in certain places. That's the only one that jumped out at me.
And that's
Again.
why it's hard sometimes to make this one document, because a member handbook is in the, you know, in the lens of an individual, and the norms and protocols are in the lens of an entire
Yeah,
committee.
exactly.
Good stuff.
All right, well,
Thanks
if
for
anybody
the time.
has any other feedback on that, just email Patty and we'll meet again and go over all that stuff, and then hopefully come with a finished document to,
Hopefully in
you
time
looked
for-
at it, you know, lovely.
I particularly
Before
love
our new-
the acronym section.
I love that page. There's nothing better than having useful resources, as long as all the links aren't broken.
Are you looking, so timeline, we do have a meeting on the 15th and the 22nd. Is this something you want to revisit on the 15th, or are we revisiting on the 22nd, or is it in June?
Oh, we do have a meeting on the 15th.
The 15th is strictly our
Yeah. Prefer to evaluation.
evaluation, that's it.
Yeah.
Took that off my calendar.
The 15th?
That's
No,
just
but
for
they-
evaluation. And then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
20.
We added
The
it last week.
22nd I have on there.
22nd is the real.
I just deleted it today because I was confused. So what time is that? 5:30 on the 15th?
It would, should be shorter, like 5:30 to 6, but we're also putting an executive after.
It should be one
And they
item and
have
then the
to attend
executive.
electronically.
And George, are you here then?
No,
No. Can you participate electronically, or are you on top of a mountain?
I'm on top of a mountain. I would defer to Mary, Principal O'Brien, as to whether or not I would be able to do that.
I'm sorry.
No. Do you get cell service on Machu Picchu?
No, you do not.
Thank you.
You do not get it, and it's a little dicey in Cusco as well.
Okay.
And there's no water the night before you go. Cusco, water shuts down around 11 p.m. until 8 in the morning.
Wow. Okay.
So plan your trip carefully. You'll love it. Really.
It's back on my calendar.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I don't know why, I remember sitting here and talking about that.
Yeah.
Because we
I don't know.
talked about adding one in April, but that didn't work, so we went
Okay.
with the one in between the 8th and the
Yeah.
22nd.
To
Okay.
get it done before the reorg.
Sweet.
So,
So if we all do our homework and then follow the instructions and our protocols and norms, we should be able to vote on this, though, on the 15th, right?
depending
We've
on
provided all
how
our
many,
feedback?
if the feedback is not, enough that we really need to, have another.
Or you don't
meeting.
agree with it?
Oh, we don't agree,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if the feedback is,
Sweet.
reasonable,
Yeah, if
maybe
it's
we
just
can even
cleaning
have
up some
another quick
things,
meeting.
the working group doesn't necessarily
Yeah,
have to review.
but
it,
if it's, don't hold
major-
back, obviously, if you have any.
Oh, no,
then
I
we'll
said
meet
my
on it.
piece, I think it's.
Yeah.
no,
So do you
I
want
think
it
it's a great
tentatively
document.
put on the agenda for the 15th?
I would say it's probably a good
Because
idea.
that's next week.
I mean, if I was thinking about rushing because we're have a reorg, but
You don't have to
is it
rush
really
it.
necessary to rush it? And then-
Except it would be nice to give the individual, if somebody.
If
we
there
had a
happens to be,
change,
yes.
It'd be nice to.
Because between now and the 15th, you also have to do your teach point. You'd have 2 homework assignments. That
I only
would be
spent
a
about
lot.
5 minutes on that.
But I think all you're going to be doing is adding a disclaimer at the
The
beginning.
disclaimer,
cleaning up a few
checking-
things.
Yeah, yeah.
So this
Checking.
is kind of like, but we don't need 2 reads. We don't have to do like the first read, second read. or is
It's
this-
really up to the
That's only-
Well,
committee.
you've
That's
been
only-
reading it all along.
That depends if it's policy.
Yeah.
So
All
that's
right, you
the-
guys let
hence
me
our-
know what
hence
you
our-
And we are,
hence our
and we are
issue.
putting a disclaimer that this is not policy, so we don't
Yeah,
need
yeah,
a
exactly. Look at
first
that.
and second
Biggest
read. It's
disclaimer.
up to us if we want one.
And is this calendar going to be in there,
No.
or is this
No, no.
part of the
No,
packet?
That's part of the package.
Oh, that's not
Okay.
there. That's
cool.
just events
So-
coming up.
Perfect.
All right, we'll go with that, and then we'll tentatively have it on the agenda.
15th.
15th.
Okay.
You guys are the best.
All right. That's, next is data-driven inclusive stakeholder communication plan.
So the outreach group, and I guess Nicole could talk to this, but we're currently organizing all the data from the surveys, combining the paper survey data with the electronic submissions and starting to,
Yeah, I can
Pull
talk
it all
about it.
together,
Okay,
sure.
if you want. We actually did all that. We've got it all merged, and I am just thrilled to be working with Susie Brooks, who's doing the data analysis. because that means I don't have to do it myself. And, like I did last year. So, but just there, we have a few things done, we just couldn't get it all done for tonight. So, just to let you know, so last year we had 450 completed surveys, this year we had 432. Pretty close in number, but we had slightly less overall households. Last year it was 1,033, and this year is 1,008. And our total percentage last year was almost identical to this year's in response. So last year we had 43.5%, and this year we have 42.8%. So it's pretty negligible in terms of about the same proportion. One thing that's significant, though, is last year we had about more than 80% of people do it online. This year that number was 65%, with almost 35% of people opting to do the mail survey. So that's twice as many as last year, more than twice as many as last year. And so you can tell, Gail, those aren't going to be going away anytime soon. And then overall, the percentages, so one of the things that we look at are the totals across schools. So I'll have that comparison chart from last year and this year in the next packet for the 22nd. But just in general, you know, each family only gets one survey, which is why this is significantly different than surveys that have been done in the past, you know. And because each household only gets one, so that means you can have a kid in one school, 2 schools, or 3 schools, but those questions are all answered on the same questionnaire. So we have 303 students at the Coombs School, or I'm sorry, 412 students at the Coombs School, but only 303 households. You know, so when you look at completed surveys, that's why we have this summary table. So you can't think of it as a percentage of students, but really a percentage of families. So at the Coombs School, our response, we had 42% of our families responded. At Quashnet, it was almost 60%. And at the middle high school, it was 44%. So all of them above 40, but Quashnet was a little bit higher.
Did you say the pool was 1,033 or the respondents were 1,000?
The pool was 1,008.
Okay, got it, okay.
And the respondents were 432.
Got it.
And the other thing in there is, in your 412, Mary Kate, does that include pre-K when you talk about the Coombs School report?
Paul?
Or Paul, I'm sorry.
When I,
In your report that you publish, is pre-K in that number?
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So we did send, the one thing I realized after the fact is we did send this survey to families who are in pre-K. But the survey's not really designed for people in pre-K. So that's something we have to fix. I think there was something like 30 was the number that Susie talked to me about. So that's just something to file away for next year. And the other good news is that the mean scores, so remember all of our metrics of like, are they feel safe on the bus? Do they know their child, does their child know does the teacher know the child's needs, that kind of stuff. Those numbers almost all went up from last year. So I think overall just very encouraged, but we'll see. Remember we had a series of special questions around homework and absences and social emotional learning. And I can tell you, the survey was very long. And in the future, I would say it needs to be shorter. We need to make a choice about what add-on question we're going to ask. Because we did lose a lot of people. We would have more respondents, but people just bailed on the surveys. So anyway, I think it's great, and Susie and I will have more at the next meeting. But overall, as good as last year. So I think that's good.
Great. Thank you.
And in terms of 2B, I think we're just on track for making sure things are going well.
Yeah, so you mailed out all the new information to every family.
The hard copy brochure.
Yeah, and then New Start Times also went out on all the report cards that were issued, right? So if anyone thinks of, or you hear anecdotally when you're out in the community that people still are missing hearing about this, let us know. Dawn and I are on that group.
Great. Thank you. All right, unless anybody else has anything on that, we'll move on. Don, did you have anything else to add?
I do not, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, well, next we have Student Representative Skylar Rickle.
Good evening. So the seniors are doing their final school to career internships and their senior seminar presentations. And we wanted to note that this is the 20th graduating class from Mashpee High School. So that's just a really cool milestone that we picked up on today. AP exams are this week and next week, and they're in full session. And students are working really hard to pass and to excel to get their college credit. The town meeting was this past Monday. There was a lot of students that attended. Cheyenne Hendricks sang the national anthem, and it was a great town and school unity event for all ages. The Project 351 Summit and Reunion is this Friday and Saturday. So since I'm an alumni this year, I'll be going all day Friday, staying overnight, and then all day Saturday. And Katrina will be coming on Saturday, because that's when the ambassadors come. And it's a celebration of spring service, our clothing drive. It's a Martin Richard Peace and Unity Walk, and it's on-site service and leadership training. So that's going to be a really strong source for finding relationships in the program and developing unification. 2 8th graders, Annika Lakatos and Stella Stase, are hosting a collection drive for foster mothers in Hyannis, and it's really awesome to see 2 8th grade best friends united in service. The All Cape Jazz Festival was at Mashpee Middle High School, along with the Cape Cod Symphony, to incorporate and emphasize the importance of music. There was a TEDx event with speakers from all across the country at Mashpee Middle High School to discuss crucial topics, and we have myself, Cheyenne Hendricks, and Juliana Reynolds, we're all in 9th grade. We started a podcast along with Miss Reynolds called Geo Speaks, as in Geography Speaks, and we interviewed multiple teachers after the TEDx event about their perspectives on geography and its significance in the world. And we started it, but this is going to be ongoing for the other AP Human Geography students. On Wednesday, May 1st, there was Student Diversity Day at Cape Cod Community College, so Indian Ed, GSA, and other students attended to celebrate our differences, go through situation training, and expanding our bubbles. The 7th and 8th graders have MCAS as well as the 10th grade students this month, which is very important for them, and they are working very hard to show what they've learned throughout the year. The Cape Cod Teen Task Force has been really coming up a lot in our school recently. They had their district wellness night on April 30th, and the students at the high school worked hard to put together a scavenger hunt to engage students, and it was a strong effort in succeeding to inform and unify them. The Pro Start dinner was last night, and it was the 4th annual at Trevi, and it was sold out, which is amazing, and it was a great success. All proceeds go to supporting the culinary program, and it highlights how skilled and dedicated our students are. There was an Energy Carnival recognition at the State House with Miss Howe on, I think it was Monday, along with students who are very dedicated to the tech programs and have helped out with the Energy Carnival in the past. Prom was last Friday night at the Papanesset Inn for the high school students, and as Ms. Vaughn said, a grand time was had by all. And the students are very thankful for the boosters in hosting post-prom at the Lanes Bowling Alley. Last week at the Mashpee Public Library, there was an art show, and the art will be displayed throughout the month of May, and it included photography, fashion design, and painting pieces from students at the high school. At Quashnet School, the spelling bee winner was Aisha Shafai, if I'm going to say it, after 2.5 hours of hard work. And just a really huge congratulations to her, because there's a lot that goes into studying for the spelling bee, it's just so much you have to do all the time, so I found it very important to highlight her. On May 20th, for Miss Murphy's senior English classes, an author named Michael Tugias of The Final Hours was a novel about a Coast Guard rescue off of Chatham in the 1950s, and he will be coming in and talking to seniors about it because it directly tied into their local area literature unit. Senior Jessica Dillis won the Congressional Art Award by Congressman William Keating for her watercolor portrait, and she will be attending an award ceremony in Washington, D.C., and she won second in the nation in mixed media art, so that's a really huge accomplishment for her. Staff from the City College of New York came as highlighting positive relations with the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, which was great unity between some of the cultures that make Mashpee what it is. And I wanted to say thank you for all bringing in a new stuffed animal for the National Junior Honor Society Service Project for Boston Children's Hospital. And I just thought of this question a little bit ago because since it was Earth Day, last week or 2 weeks ago, a lot of us have been talking about like sustainability and stuff like that. And I was just wondering what the school district does as like efforts for environmental sustainability.
That's a good question.
Yeah, the composting project at Quashnet, right?
Yeah. Yes, the composting project at Quashnet. And Coombs has a composting project. A lot of recycling. Have to ponder that.
I think so.
I-
That sounds like a initiative.
Thank you for
student-led
the
I
initiative.
know, I would,
Skylar's in charge.
Yeah, they do the beach cleanup,
yeah.
Mr. Hall. Mhm.
But I would love to see some more things being done, like those really cool water fountains that everybody has everywhere that allow you to fill up your water bottles, and they tell you how many plastic bottles you're
Yeah, those are cool.
saving, and then recycling in the cafeteria.
Power hand dryers.
Yes, more efficient hand dryers.
I knew that was good.
So those are all things that you could bring to us as requests.
The composting thing, though, didn't we go from like, I mean, it was a significant amount of trash bags down to a minimum, and I don't remember the numbers, but it was pretty amazing, right?
We went from a daily pickup to twice a week.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was really significant.
I remember being amazed by it.
Yeah.
Such a great program, and everybody picked it up really quickly. I still can't figure it out, but all the kids got it. I just asked one of them how to do it.
Because don't your little ones do pretty good with that, too? Yeah. Just on a shorter table. Just the same, though.
But obviously, we're not the right people to ask. Maybe you, could Skyla talk to like us and some of our managers and, folks at DPW to better understand how we're doing that? Because I think maybe you could tell us, probably.
And I think even like, Miss Martin, who's the STEM teacher at Coombs, she has a great environmental focus, so maybe some of the lessons or some of the filters that kids do outside of school based on what she's influenced them with. So all of the STEM Mrs. Whidden is at this school. But we can connect you. Maybe we should have a student committee that supports an effort like that. Doesn't Mr. Hopp have an environmental club?
Yeah.
I thought it's some more. We have solar panels on the high school,
Yeah.
and I know we just went through the LED upgrade.
Yeah,
For all the
all the
schools.
schools
Yeah.
have LED lights and the panels on the high school.
Yeah, it would be
Generate
really,
electricity.
it would be really cool to have this all compiled.
Yeah, this is a really thought-provoking question.
Yeah, it is,
that's
yeah.
good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Will you get passed on your stuffed animals, or are you sticking around?
Yeah, there's a bag over there.
I know, what I've been wondering the whole time before she explained it is what people at home must be thinking.
Yeah,
For the last
exactly.
hour.
Well, that's
got
why I
candy
did
all
want
over
them
the
to be
place.
visual for Skylar when she came
Yeah,
through. So she's
that's great.
The,
Can you pass yours to
Oh,
me?
excuse me. It's a very nice bag.
This one has a little noise to it.
It's a really good thing they're doing too with these. All right, moving on to new business. We have the superintendent's presentation of self-evaluation.
Okay. So you all have a packet that matches this PowerPoint. If you don't want to turn your neck, that's fine too. What I decided to do, maybe it's more for myself, and maybe you won't appreciate it, but for me it was sort of reflecting back on my time in central office, because time does seem to go quite fast, and I was just trying to sort of recoup or reflect on what I've done. I also picked these 6 categories that you see on that main slide, and this is based off of, it was in a magazine in terms of what the people look for in their superintendent. So I kind of tried to group my thoughts under these categories. So the first one is for me, nothing really happens in this district without it being a team effort. And I'm really fortunate to have a really dedicated group of leaders in the district, educators, students, families, our community partners that really are focused on trying to do what we can that is best for our students at all times. So I think together we've created this culture that I hope that all students feel valued, and that we are trying to help students reach their maximum potential and give them all the skills that they need for whatever their passion is or whatever their future plans will be. So definitely, for me, it's a focus on the team, and none of this is a me thing, it's all an us thing. And I'm going to skip to sort of this picture and then talk. So I tried to sort of highlight a few things, which I'm going to talk about. But in terms of being an instructional leader, I think not only about what I can expose the teachers to, but I also think about how I can then impact what's happening in the classroom. So one of the biggest things we've done over the time I've been here is the MTSS implementation. That really was a mindset shift. It's a framework for how we do business, and really the fact that as a team we all focus on instruction, curriculum, and in the environment before we land on the student in front of us, because those 3 things are the things we can fix. That was a big shift. And also the fact that within a classroom, a teacher who's a Tier 1 teacher and teaches everyone can also deliver Tier 2 skills and strategies, where I think in the past there might have been sort of a mindset that there were other people, other personnel resources that would support in that. And so the manual that we've created, which is, the picture of it is there, is really a great handbook. It is a living document, but it can be given to a brand new employee who can gain a good understanding of what MTSS is. We'll be relooking at it again in the summer, because we already know as we work through it and we live by it, there are things we want to change. So that's a big accomplishment. I do try to get in classrooms very frequently. In fact, I probably go more often than I should, because I really enjoy being around the children. And I do learn a lot. I soak in a lot with conversations with children. I always ask them, can you tell me what you're doing? Can you tell me why you're doing it? And you just learn a lot by being in there. So I'm proud of the fact that I do spend a lot of time in classrooms. We as a leadership team, and I know this trickles down to all the schools with their principals, that we try to always make decisions to improve student learning based on some information that we have. We do benchmarking and anecdotal information, observational information, but there is always data that is collected to help inform our decisions. I'm proud of the integration of technology that we have been able to put in place, and again, it's a team without Susie and Colleen, who have really helped raise the skill level of our teachers. It wouldn't happen as well as it does. Then there are several books that we have brought into the district, and collectively we've done book studies. So explicit instruction with Anita Archer, she also came to the district. The behavior code with Jessica Minahan, she also came into the district not only for whole staff PD, but as a consultant. Shift This, we didn't get Joy Kerr in, we tried, but her book was read by a group in the summer, and it is shared. Danny Bursell was last year's convocation speaker, and his was all about literacy and also restoring the joy of teaching. And then more of the books this year, Changeable, and the School Discipline Fix is all about collaborative problem solving. We had 25 teachers participated, everybody participated in a one-day training, but then a group of 25. And so we use it even within ourselves and within our own interactions, not only just using it with children. Think Kids is tied to that as well. The End of Average was a whole district book read. And if continuing down on the list, There were we've done a lot with trauma-informed practices and had consultant Naja Riley come in. We did a book study of her book in our Compass group. Currently, all of the high school staff is receiving PD and inclusive practices that Dr. Curley and Dr. Hanscom are delivering on half days, and I'm participating in that. The Mashpee Wampanoag Culture PD that we had last year, and we have again this year for the middle high school teachers primarily. I was able to participate in that last year, and really that needs to be something that we have all of our teachers participate in. It's very informative. Sheltered English Immersion course that we all have to take. Then I also participate in the Old Colony Superintendents Group, which meets monthly. Those are superintendents from Seekonk to P-Town, so that's a large group of about 40 of us. And then the Cape and Island Superintendents, which meets monthly as well. That's obviously a smaller group. And then fortunate enough to have attended many of these conferences. What I like about attending a national conference is the interaction that you get with people from other districts and trying to understand really our similarities, but in a lot of cases our differences, but how we all sort of try to reach the same goals. Compass is a group of educators and building leaders that meets monthly. And like I said, this year we spent a lot of time on a book study. And then we've created a staff resource site, which is a Google site. You have the front of it on this little slide here, but I can share the link with you, but it is really a one-stop shop for all of our staff to find, whether it's forms they need, it's reinforcement about instructional practices in there, everything is in there that they would need, and that's a great resource for a new employee as well. And also you can see any of the books that we do bring into the district, some group, whether it's summer leadership or Compass or other groups, do book studies and create summaries. So if you don't have time to read the full book, that for our educators, they can read the shorter version and implement some of those things. So in terms of instructional leader, those are some of multi-year highlights. Does anyone have any questions you want to ask on that? Okay. The next section that I focused on was being an effective communicator. So some of the things that I do, whether they're all as effective as they should be, I'm not sure, but weekly informational emails to all of our stakeholders, monthly articles in the Mashpee Enterprise that try to highlight some of all the great things that we do. I never capture them all, though. An online presence that I maintain, which is the website, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Not as much on the website, although I do put things in there like school committee bios.
Is it just me this time?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't say any names, but you can look on the site and see your bios there. I think they were all so well done. I love actually reading them all. So everyone should read those bios of our fabulous school committee members.
Should definitely read mine.
Yeah, well,
It's a quick read.
The listening tours that I conduct at the schools, I've been doing this for multiple years. This last one that I have scheduled, I've shifted a little bit. They are going to be listening tours where I spend the day in classrooms, but if a particular teacher wants me to come and see them or share something with me, I am available as well. Our new message board, which I think is a great way to communicate to those that just happen to be driving by. I do author the Mashpee Chamber of Commerce annual magazine article, and this I think is the third year, but I had just, saw the book and wondered the first year, why isn't the school in this? And was able to reach out, so now we definitely are always part of that book. And then the resource site that is maintained. Also, I have done some presentations. One of the years we went to the RTI Innovation Conference, I was part of a panel of superintendents that talked about MTSS. At the Mass Executive Institute here in Mashpee, we also presented as a group about our MTSS journey. At the last fall MASS, MASC, I was part of 3 who talked about superintendent evaluation. And then the Calmer Choice Annual Benefit, not this summer, the summer before, I was asked to be the speaker. I think my interactions with the town departments and town committees are positive. I'm part of the outreach working group. We've created the brochures for our school district and also for school start times. I have interactions with stakeholders at many community events, and I am a calm and collaborative problem solver, relationship builder, and I think I'm a good listener. And so then that slide is just a few of those things with the lovely Skyla appearing in the newspaper. Any questions on that or thoughts? Okay. The next category I focused on was being a community leader. And these are just groups that I'm involved with. I'm a member of the Mashpee Inclusion and Diversity Committee, a member of the Mashpee Substance Use Task Force. I'm on the Mashpee Public Library Strategic Planning Committee. I'm a member of Capital Improvement Planning Committee. Thank you for appointing me. I am a member of the Kiwanis Club of Mashpee. I am part of the group that chooses the annual Mashpee Chamber Awards. I believe our partnerships with the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe are positive and productive. Same with the town of Mashpee officials. I try to maintain and support the district having a presence at Mashpee community events. And then I value the partnerships we've created with stakeholders and resources, our Mashpee Commons partnership, Southport Falcons, Falcon Friends, and then helping to develop the Mashpee Portrait of a Graduate. So those are just pictures of some of those groups of people. The one in the middle is a very nice picture. And then the next one is Fiscal Oversight Leader. I'm a member of the Finance Working Group, and everything, like I re-emphasize, is always a we. We've developed annual budgets in a collaborative way. We've created the FY20 budget narrative. We are engaged in the multi-year financial planning. I am involved with unit negotiations and have done A, B, and C and non-unit as well. We monitor and plan for facility needs and expenditures. We have sort of a 5-year moving forward plan where we look at sort of work we'd like to have done in the buildings, and we update that annually. I monitor personnel and operating expenditures, and we collaborate to make sure we are really allocating our resources on a district-wide approach, not a school-by-school. The Student Activity Account Guidelines and Procedures Manual was created within these past few years, and then the business plan and concepts for We Are Mashpee are in place, and it's definitely a collaboration. So, under operational management, I feel I was effective in hiring our assistant superintendent and our special education director. I think those have been outstanding additions to our team. School committee goal setting and working groups was not something that happened prior to. You did not set goals. That was something we decided to do together. The one-to-one technology initiative, supporting that and helping that to grow. Camp Falcon initiative. After-school program, particularly the expansion of that to the Coombs School. All that is connected to the We Are Mashpee outreach site. The Wampanoag language course for students was something that we worked together to make sure that happened. The Quashnet renovation project, supporting Principal O'Brien in her over-the-top efforts to make that a success. And then I have weekly, often daily interactions with our building principals. The staff resource site is a great operational tool for our staff. The Chinese students' visits to MPS, supporting that, the logistics of that. Emergency preparedness drills, we make sure those are scheduled. School start time implementation, the review and update of the school committee policy manual. Many personnel matters, facility needs, whatever the challenges or opportunities are that the principals have, they always share those with me, and we sort of brainstorm. They come with some great ideas, but we work together, trying to meet the social emotional needs of our students as well as our staff, and then our student safety and security falls under that category, making sure we're moving forward with best practices with that. Okay, so that's just pictures of Camp Falcon. And then a couple of other highlights, various grants that we've achieved to improve outcomes for our students, and I definitely want to thank our team because it's a collaboration of the writing of those and the concepts behind those, that those get written, and it's not something that I do personally. I'm part of a team. Recognitions that we've achieved in our sports area for CTE, for STEM, in art, music, writing, robotics, our service to the community, and teacher recognitions that they've achieved. The Quashnet School renovation project coming in pretty much on schedule. Really, the results of it, which is reflective of Principal O'Brien's input, I think is beautiful. Student-initiated community service projects. We've had so many wonderful projects that our students come forward with. The annual Walk of Honor for our graduates just started within these last years. The annual Family Opinion Survey, the Community Essay Contest, and the Anti-Vaping Contest were some of the other highlights that we have had. Then I have a little bit of data. Looking from FY15, so that would be the spring of 15 to the spring of 18, because we don't have the spring of 19 data. But in terms of improvements, so there's been an improvement in grade 10 ELA MCAS, grade 10 mathematics, grade 10 science. AP, students earning a 3 to 5 on the exam has increased. And then the SAT average has gone up in math as well as the reading writing, which I think are good pieces of information. Some other data is our four-year graduation rate has gone up from 2015 to 2019, from 88.3% to 94%. The dropout of all students grades 9 through 12 was 1.4% in 2015 and is 0.9% or was 0.9% in 2018. Student enrollment at Cape Tech, we had 59 students in March of 2015, and we have 43 students as of March of 19. And just for comparison purpose and percentage-wise, potential kids who could go to the Tech was 449 in 2015. So that's 13.1% chose to go there, and 467 students in 2018, and 9.2% of eligible students. So, my goal is to capture as many as we can to have. I know that we still are obligated to that, but that's a sign of being able to try to keep some of our kids. And then again, measuring students with an IEP, 371 in March of 15 and 268 in March of 19. And we've had a relatively stable population, so I think that's a good decrease. So I use that as a measure of increasing the skill set of our staff so that they're better able to meet our student needs.
That should be in our budget narrative, by the way, this whole chart.
Okay. And then the last two slides are just really focusing on what some of my plans or my hopes for the future are. We obviously have received our advanced manufacturing pathway, so we need to implement that. I would love to establish financial literacy course at MMHS as a graduation requirement. We have met and have a plan for this next year as a way to integrate it, but it's going to become a graduation requirement for all seniors. Explore establishing a hospitality pathway. We have all the pieces in place, so if the state shifts in that direction to add that as an additional pathway, we are going to seek that grant as well. Did you want to say something?
Oh, yeah. So what I think is kind of interesting with the financial literacy course is that my grade, at least I know we did that in 7th and 8th grade. We did a lot of financial literacy courses and a lot of taxes stuff and FAFSA with Mr. Laporte.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's kind of weird how we do it in 7th and 8th grade and then we forget all of it.
Right.
I don't remember really anything from it.
So that's a good piece of information. It needs to shift a little bit up, not be in 7th grade necessarily, or not to the level. You need some exposure, but probably. But it will be something you'll see before you graduate, so you'll be well prepared.
Because the program that we used was really good and it
Right.
had a lot of information and I thought it was really informational. It's just we don't remember any of it now.
Right. We'll get it back into it. Okay. Another pathway I want to explore, and there's a group in southern Massachusetts that has opted this way, is a cybersecurity pathway. I think we have all that we would need, and there is something like 3.5 million job openings in that field in 2021. So that would be one that we'd also want to partner with. So I envision sort of a connection with the base, Mass Maritime, outside partners, which you have to have for these pathways to really give our kids enough skill set that they would be able to enter that field. They could go on for more schooling, but they would have a pretty good skill set. So that's definitely something I want to make sure happens. I would like to facilitate the same Wampanoag culture workshop, but for parents, not just the one for the teachers, because I think it would really help to sort of improve understandings within the community. We want to increase involvement of industry and post-secondary educational institutions with MPS, so we definitely do not, I think, access Mass Maritime or Bridgewater enough that we could, and even Cape Cod. So that's definitely a goal. Building an alumni database, connecting the graduates with current students. So this will fall under the outreach coordinator, but we were talking about, even as our 20th graduating class leaves, before they go, completing a Google form with at least their private Gmail account and where they're going to school. So some of that, so then we can start to build this database, and as they go through college or the military, we can grab them to come back to sort of be sources of information for our kids. So that's there. Implementing the portrait of a graduate. So once it's finalized, it's going to be the starting point for our next strategic plan. So our current strategic plan ends in 1 more year. So next year we'll be working on developing the next one, which feeds into that, but the portrait of a graduate will be informing that. Future continued is to make decisions and provide options for students that may come out of our family opinion survey data, some of the narratives that that question about what would they like to see or what could we do things better. Improving the athletic fields at MMHS, I know that's in the works. We had a little meeting today about the summer usage of the fields, and so much April rain did not help the upper fields that do not drain. So, but we're moving in the right direction. But even if we end up, so the $30,000 for the analysis of what we need is in place, but then it's likely to be the summer of 2021 before anything actually gets done, because everything, unless the person coming in to do the study is quick enough with the study to make the October town meeting, it's not going to make it till next May, and then it's just a long process. So. But we're going to get there. I want to build a girls volleyball team. I need to figure out ways to bring more families and students to Mashpee. Mark Brackett is going to be our convocation speaker, and so we have a multi-year plan of rolling out his ruler approach, which is a great classroom approach for social emotional wellness, where the kids sort of own how they're feeling and how they can feel better. Improving the building security, we're working on that. And then we're also working on the MPS app, which I think I just signed off on something today. So that will allow us to really communicate well. The way the app works is it does have a space for, it uses some community partners. And so then eventually it gets offset by that. But we'll work on that. They work on that. The company does. So.
Cool.
Be a good place for that, Sophie.
Yeah, that would be great.
So you also had, which you already received once, but in case you didn't have it, I gave it to you again. I had done a self-reflection, and then this gives a little bit more details and some of the action steps. And then you also have this new cover sheet, which I updated. So today's the 8th, and I'm sharing and answering any questions that you have. But from tomorrow till the 13th, which is Monday, right? 13th. You need to go into Teach Point to do your piece, to give Chris 2 to 3 days to consolidate by the 15th. So that's kind of important. But in anything that you have, or you'd like to ask any questions, I would welcome them.
So, wow, there's a lot there. It's going to take me a while to process all that. But I want to do that. But one thing that I noticed from the last thing that you shared and then what you presented here today is that I think we could be a little more focused on outcomes in your evaluation rather than just things you did.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you said it yourself. It's called effective communicator, but I don't know how effective all this is. So it's prolific would be a good adjective, but we don't know how effective it was in terms of the culture-based training that we did with the Wampanoag, or some of the things, or the tours that we've provided with people. I think it would be good to set
goals and then show those accomplishments, like bring 50 new people into our schools this year. And then as an accomplishment, you can say, or did our teachers' understanding of Wampanoag culture change? And a real easy way to do that is to have them take a survey before they get the training and then take one after the training, and then you can see whether you've moved the needle on, their actual knowledge of it. So I think if I had any, my only critique would be that this is a lot of stuff, but it just means you're busy unless we associate it with an outcome, that you can demonstrate. And so, and I think that's what we're trying to do with the surveys, is to show, those some metrics that you can refer to. I think some of the strongest stuff, I don't know whether these are selective data or not, but it looks pretty good to me, in terms of the improvement data that you shared. Those are outcomes. I mean, those are things that, are definitive. So I think that's a lot. So anyway, so I like the way you laid it out, and I think it just might be better to articulate those big things as your goals, your things that you're moving towards, and then maybe share a bit about your process for accomplishing those. So I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? And so it's less of a laundry list and more of like, this is what I accomplished. So, but anyway, I'll look at it closely and put my feedback in the SharePoint or whatever it is they're supposed to be. Thank you.
One thing I would say is, I would almost make a suggestion maybe for the next year or whatever. Is we talk a lot about how we're always trying to, the world's changing, right? The country's changing, the world's changing. School kind of needs to evolve with that. Learning needs to evolve with that. You have a lot of things in here that are great, a lot of things that are showing growth in what we currently do and what we've always done. And then you have a bunch of items in here that show how we're kind of thinking outside of the box. And at the risk of using buzzwords, but they're buzzwords for a reason, of creativity and innovation, I think you should really kind of pinpoint where you see that you and your administration has kind of stepped outside of the box and, brought something into Mashpee, like for instance, the We Are Mashpee, the one-to-one technology and bringing on the cybersecurity. Things like that are not necessarily found in a lot of districts. So it'd be interesting to see where you stand in your self-evaluation, where you believe that you are being creative in kind of bringing things to Mashpee that don't necessarily exist anywhere or don't need to be here. You're changing the environment of education. So I'd like to see a little more of that in the future. Don,
go ahead.
Don, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
My only comment was, and I agree with both what Chris and Nicole said, but I'm wondering if we're kind of cart before the horse here, because wouldn't most of the stuff that you're talking about really be adjusting our strategic goals and for individual action steps for those goals? Because, and as I understand this evaluation is kind of the synopsis of our goal from last year and how we evaluate how we went from A to B, correct? So we're either going to meet those goals or not. So I wonder if, I think that's great. I think that really, from the words we're talking about, we should have a really good retreat and change the way we kind of narrate how we're going to do these goals and put I forgot the word you were using for the, I keep wanting to say action steps, put the outcomes in the goals and say what the outcomes are, say that we put the goals in that section. That's just my quick editorial. But am I wrong in saying that the evaluation really should be us evaluating the superintendent on her?
No, I think, so you have the superintendent's goals, which are out, which are in and of themselves, they could maybe be a little bit stronger, but
then you have action steps under that, and then progress are these bulleted things, and a lot of that is what she referred to in this evaluation summary. So what I'm saying is,
Gotcha.
instead of saying, you know, the tower grant, you know, some of these things that are just bullets, pick a couple and focus on the outcome. Because to me, that's more meaningful than the list. But you're right, I mean, the way that this is worded now, the superintendent's goal 1, I will support district leaders, school principals, and teachers as they individually and collaboratively engage in the MTSS framework process and protocols with fidelity in order to improve, not being disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, you could phrase that to be, it's in there, but it's like improved social, emotional, behavioral, and academic thing for all students is really the outcome. And then all the other stuff is, you know.
And I mean, we should, and honestly, we drive the, at least the 10,000-foot goals, you know, from the retreat. So if we want to change that, I guess we can't get too specific, though. I mean, that's really where Patty gets specific.
Yeah, but it could, yes, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
slow down,
It
yes.
needs to all list. Yours, mine, theirs,
Yeah.
teachers.
But yeah, we could,
Good times.
Good.
Yeah, thanks, Patty.
George, do you have any feedback? Anybody else?
Everybody else has covered the points.
so when do you, this process, you have the blueprint for progress, that ends in school year 20.
But
Which
we'll be
we're
creating a
starting.
new one this year,
Right.
1920.
So you're doing it this year, and that
1920.
portrait of the graduate is a component of that, or is it?
It's definitely a starting point because it has to, it will
Connect.
flow everything from that.
Yeah, so maybe that's the time to look at these, is when we do.
And then obviously, this is our self-assessment, so read through it, take into account what she, you know, has written down, and then use your own, you know, personal assessments and perspectives, and we'll get ours all turned in by meeting on the 15th. I'll let those compile up.
And then on the 15th, so we have our submissions, and then is that Chris, I just got to refresh my memory, so then you share those out
Mhm.
at the 15th meeting for Patty?
Yes.
So that's when we would make our comments more generally about,
About how you feel about
Yeah.
her assessment,
okay,
yes.
all right,
Yeah.
Yeah, and within your forms, you have boxes that can be narrative,
Mhm.
right,
and he can include all the narratives
right,
in
okay,
his.
great. I'll hold my
And
comments.
if you have anything specific, just keep in mind when you're going through it, if you have anything specific that you want to make sure is talked about, stop me, because I'm not going to read word for word the entire assessment.
Bless you.
Yeah,
So,
yes, got it.
moving on. We have the draft of the nomination ballot for FY 2020. This is for the nominations for reorganization.
Right, so you have this draft, it's two-sided. And we did add the, what did we add? The legislative, where is that? Yeah,
Liaison.
why am I not seeing that, but,
I read that somewhere.
I
I think
did
that's
too.
it's in the member handbook, I think, maybe.
right, but we decided it needed to be on here.
It's not.
Who's on the curriculum?
Oh, wait, it's on the
subcommittee?
number 5.
Oh, you are?
Oh, number 5. Yeah. So, timing-wise, the election is on the 21st. So on the morning of the 22nd, the plan is that all 5 members will receive this electronically for you to complete. And get back to me, hopefully, I think I put by 3 up here, it says by
Mhm.
3. That allows like an hour for me just to make sure that whatever is passed out as your ballot to look at, everybody's on there. So whatever things you're interested in, it will show up like we did last year. It's just not a, because of the timing of the meeting and the election, there's no big window to reorganize, which is the next day.
Yes. So this also violates our policy. So we need to figure out exactly what we want to do. The policy specifically states how we reorganize. It does not include nomination ballots. It's all called from the floor. So we need to be careful. If we're going to do this, we need to update our policy to reflect this nomination ballot.
I will check that.
And so I'm not relying on my sometimes bad memory, I did look it up prior to the meeting. so.
Oh, thank you, so I won't do that.
Yeah.
So this means we'd be in violation of policy.
Well, we're just not, we're not following policy. The policy specifically states, and it says that and I think we mentioned in the member handbook that you would take chair of the committee, which is not in accordance with the policy as well. The only time that someone, other than the chair, chairs the committee during organization is when the chair is no longer on the committee. Then the vice chair chairs the committee. And then when the new chair is new chair is elected, then he or she takes over the rest of
Right.
the organization.
Yeah,
So that's
there's
not what
only
the
that.
member handbook says.
I thought it said it's
thought
only
it-
that one piece until the new chair is elected. It could be the same.
But there is no lapse in chair unless the chair is not on the committee. He or she is
Unless
still
he
the
was
chair
elected,
until a new one's
voted off.
Yeah. Or voted off, yeah. So I just want, again,
Gotcha.
just going to make sure
I'll check that.
we're going to change something, that's awesome. We need to change it in the right area.
And I mean, if we wanted to use this form too, the way around it would just be, it's just informational.
So we just still have to call all the
Yeah,
nominations
we can
from the
just still
floor.
call them from the floor.
So if you nominate I guess you can nominate yourself. If you nominate yourself on the form, you better call yourself nominate yourself
Yeah.
from the floor. Which
Or
is,
everybody will get the paper, right, so you'll know exactly who wants to be.
Yeah, right, so they can
So
nominate.
then
Yeah, yeah,
somebody,
exactly.
other than that
So-
person, can always just nominate
concur,
somebody based on
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
so.
But the way it worked last year, guys, was that this form was accepted by the committee as the nomination. So that there was a vote to accept these nominations. So I'm not sure, Jeff, what you're citing, but I think we were following policy.
We did vote on this last year.
I got it.
And if someone was to be nominated, there'd still be need to be a second for that nomination anyway. So I think we did that. We just did it not on an individual basis, but in aggregate to allow anyone who had an interest to not be dependent upon independent second.
Now, I completely understand the intent of the ballot. I just want to make sure that, it says it word for word that nominations are called from the floor. So we just need to make sure that we're following our policy. That was my only comment. So,
Yeah, because I believe last year too, we didn't do a roll call, we did a roll call, but it was names, not yes or no.
yeah, I honestly 100% cannot remember. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure if we were,
I think you were remote that night.
oh, that's right, I was.
You were.
That's right, I was on the screen.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
you were.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why I don't understand how you did it last year, so got it. Wait, no, I was here for that was 2 years ago.
Oh, gee.
I know, time is flying by. Either way, I don't want to split hairs, I'm just
No,
being
I
careful.
think
This is another one of the things that, in this manual, we just got to be careful about. That
Yeah.
If we want to change dramatically how we do business, awesome, and it's the best way to do it, let's just do it the right way.
I don't want there to be a cloud over my chairmanship.
Just check them all. Not interested, not interested, not interested, not interested.
I guess I'm officially not chairman then, for my second to last official meeting.
That was just for you.
Congratulations.
All right.
All right, somebody let me know whether we're filling out the ballot or not. Just tell me at the next meeting.
I think we can follow the policy with the ballot, I don't think it's,
Well, no, because we have a meeting on the 15th, and then we have another meeting on the 22nd.
Oh, that's, okay.
So-
Yeah, I don't think, definitely not filling it out isn't violating
No.
anything, that's,
I don't believe so.
That's
as
good.
well.
Okay, all right.
But that's the chairman's decision.
yeah. Filling out is fine.
Okay, what's next?
All right. Last under new business is the event for Janice M. Mills Learning Commons.
So we don't have an event scheduled, but I feel like I would like to circle back with the people that requested and came before us, as well as her daughter. So I don't know, I was just sort of throwing it out for any thoughts that you had for what that might look like.
Any dedication ceremony or something?
During the school year?
Well, I think so. I mean, it would be nice to, it's already up, but I feel like we need to make it more formal of a recognition.
Yeah, I was just thinking of how to make it like a community event. My first thought was when we do our retreat, we could, but that's not during the school year, so it's, we could do it in conjunction with like a school committee meeting over the summer.
Having it up there.
Yeah, make it be up
Just
there
looking at
and
that.
then have the,
That's a good idea.
Put a lot of invites out there.
Mhm.
And then
but
tell us-
again, that's not during the
Stick around
school
for
year.
business.
Well, no, but it's during the meetings. So.
Yeah.
Well, we can always do it
I mean, I would
prior
think,
to the meeting. Maybe we can get some people to stay.
It's okay. Thank you for coming, please stay.
but I mean, like, we could make it be sort of a reception with
Mm.
like, you know,
Mhm.
food and drink and just, you know, like an informal community event.
That'd be great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll yeah, work on
Good
that.
idea.
We have a really light agenda.
Yeah. All right, good. Anything else on that?
No.
Yeah, one thing, on May 29th is the final health advisory meeting. That is going to be iffy for me. Who's the alternate?
I do not know.
Oh.
I know, it's funny you say that. 'Cause do we have that posted somewhere? I mean, it's not personal information, right? Can we post that?
We have a, don't talk, Mrs. Licker, we have a chart.
Just
So you want me to reach out to the alternate to see if they can attend?
Yeah,
Sure.
just be on standby. I mean, I
Okay.
arrive at 1:30 at Logan.
Oh, you can make it, go make it down here by 3:30. Okay.
The only other thing I was gonna ask is just on, I guess it would be on the 22nd agenda, can we talk about the subsequent agenda for what we're gonna do at the tribe, the
Yes.
meeting we're having at the tribe?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
is there a leadership team meeting between now and then?
I think so.
Okay.
When is the tribe meeting? Do I have that?
I think it's around
The
November.
First weekend in June, the first one in June, June 5th. What?
I'm sorry, nothing.
Oh, good.
First
I thought you were
weekend?
gonna say, oh, I'm.
No, please share with everybody.
No, that's all right. Oh, it's right there, I'm sorry, MWT Government Center. I missed that.
Is there any, since we're all here, is there any availability for you guys, like the hour before? Like at 4:30?
Probably. A little too far out for me to really know, but
Yeah, that's all I'm
probably.
saying. As of right now, I have no issue with coming
Yeah.
an hour early.
What about you, Don?
What date are you talking about?
June 5th, the meeting at the tribal center.
Yeah, I should be available.
I was just thinking about maybe it's a learning opportunity for us before the meeting, kind of like we did last time. We did the big tour, and it was kind of like everything. But maybe there's an opportunity to do something like specific, like some of the youth programs that Cameron came in and talked to us about, or, I mean, I don't know what's on that list,
Yep.
but that maybe Roxanne could suggest something that we would be interested in that would be more like one thing, because you figure about 20 minutes, some time for questions, and then it's time to go into the meeting. So it's
Yeah.
probably, it's not a ton of time, but maybe there's something specific that they could highlight or want to highlight while we're there.
That'd be good.
Because I don't want to just come in and use their space. I want us to like
Grow.
get some, learn something while we're there. Just a thought, just an idea. I can't believe it's already June.
No.
Nuts.
It's weird.
All right, does anybody have anything else? Don, is that still you?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. All right, if we don't have anything else, I don't believe we had any public comment. I didn't see anybody else come in. So I'll need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
See?
Yeah, it's all right. I'll talk to you offline.
All right, we have a motion by George. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Nicole. Any discussion? Hearing none. Nicole?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Don?
Yes,
Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
thank you.
Bye, Dawn.
So the 2020 NSBA is calling for proposals if we want to do something.
Oh, really? Already?
What's that?
Just joined in.
No, I Googled it.